Date. Is that okay?
Oh, yes.
Fine, fine, fine.
Good. Okay, right. So I think we are coming in now. Here we go. Right, good, excellent. Right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this last Facebook Live of the year. And please say hi when you come in and let us know where you are around the country. And it's always nice to know, or around the world, I should say, not around the country. 'Cause it's always nice to know where you're coming from. Well. It's become a bit of a tradition now to have you, Sarah, as a guest, as our last guest of the year. It just kind of fell that way, and we had you and Matt last year, and Chloe as well.
Yes.
But this year, I thought it might be quite fun to see about inviting into this Zoom space people who have really seen a big difference in following your work, Sarah, and also in the application of ACE and especially free work. So I had lots of people get in touch. So sorry if you were listening in and you weren't able to come into this room this time, but I think we'll do this kind of thing again because it's fun. But we've got these wonderful people in the room now, so we can all wave, hi everybody, hi, great. We're going to get around everybody and listen to their own kind of adventures into ACE and how it's made a difference with their dogs' lives. Now, so as you can see, a bit of a Christmas theme because I've got the Christmas top on. I should have said to everybody else, wear your Christmas jumpers, but I wanted to be the only one because it's got to be about me. Hi, everybody. Loads of people piling in from all over. We've got Australia, America, South Africa, around the UK, California, Canada, Mississippi. Great. Good. Good to see you all.
Amazing.
Thanks for coming in. Right. So, Sarah, we had the joy of spending some time together a couple of weeks ago at Daniel's ABK conference. We were both kind of presenting there, and we were talking that there was definitely a vibe at the conference, a shift, a change in how people are thinking about behavior, thinking about their work with dogs, animals more widely, and of course, I think a lot of people would credit ACE and your work and hearing you speak and free work as being a big part of that. But it was really noticeable, wasn't it?
Thank you. That's really lovely, because I think a lot of people have been exploring and thinking differently and not necessarily agreeing with a lot of the beliefs that have been out there, but maybe didn't have the confidence or maybe didn't have the platform to be able to say, but actually, I've noticed this. So I think you've been hugely instrumental in helping these voices come together, Andy. And you and I have talked about this, for a long time. And there is definitely a shift. People have more confidence, I think, to really speak from the heart in what they wish for their own relationships with their animals and how they wish to support that relationship for clients that come to them. And yeah, the dialogue is changing, the understanding is changing, and the courage is changing. And that conference was unbelievable. It was such an incredible, inspiring event to be a part of. And I'm really looking forward to sharing that same space with you again next year. And it's people like, everyone here who's joined us in the chat, people that are joining us to listen in as well. They're all part of that shift and all part of that support network, because it does take a community. And I was lucky seeing things in a different way, that I was given platforms to share. Platforms where I could share what I was seeing in terms of coat patterns, back in the end of the 1990s. And I just feel so lucky to be able to connect with people and really ask them to look at dogs maybe with new eyes. And yeah, it is amazing, the shift that's happening. It's been long overdue, but I do think there have always been people wanting that and seeing what we see, but maybe not having the platform or the confidence to be able to share that information or that new belief.
Well, that's really interesting, isn't it? I think it's a good way of looking at it, because it isn't about anything being new as such. I think what is new is, like I say, people's confidence to speak out more and to talk about things more confidently. I think as a professional community, we got a bit stuck in a certain narrative. And when you and Laura was there as well, we did that panel with Victoria and Susan Clothing, thinking about what this means really. I think it shows that we have broken through that kind of glass ceiling a little bit about what you are you can and can't talk about. You know, and some narratives have been a bit stifled before, and it does give people confidence. I think that was the feedback I got at the conference again, seeing people in person saying, "It's so great to hear people talking about things that I felt myself but haven't necessarily expressed, or even known how to express." Sometimes we have that feeling, don't we? We don't necessarily know how to put it into words or how to target it.
And also, I think, yeah, having that, sorry, that is it okay that I feel like this? It's having the permission to say yes. And not only is it okay to feel like this, you are one of many people that feel like this. And we can all join together and become a better voice for these amazing animals that grace our lives. And I really, and I always say this, I really don't think I own free work. That's why I could never sort of copyright the methodology or anything, because it really is the dogs that have shared this with me. And I've been fortunate to have the opportunity just to sit back and watch and really pay attention to the information that they're sharing. So it will always be available for dogs and other animals because it's come from the dogs for the benefit of all animals worldwide.
Well, yeah, and I think this is another gift I think that you've given us as well with free work, especially about how, like you say, it's the dogs that have been the main educators, but you've allowed us all to use that in a way that connects to our own part in that journey. I think that's important. And those who really do get this shift, what I've found is because it is very dog led, because it's about learning about that dog, it's kind of democratized the whole conversation, really. You know, what people think about dog centered care is we've got lots of professionals in there, but lots of caregivers, and some of the best posts in the group. And I know you found this yourself, Laura, speaking to some of the people you work with. Some of the most wonderful posts and stories are from caregivers, because if they get it, they see it, and everybody's voice is equally valid. It's not like perhaps in the past where there was a bit of a power imbalance with the educator and that's because we're passing that power on to the animals now, saying you teach us how do we best turn up to your lived experience. Matt, you're very integral with ACE, and people see you as being a very important part of that with ACE and free work. But of course, you had your own evolution into this.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think ACE is, I mean, first of all, I don't want to hijack this, but the pair of you have been the biggest influence on so many areas of my life, both inside and outside of work. And the work that you both do, and the things that you do, and the way you give time and information and knowledge to people in the way that you share it, both of you have completely changed my life. And that is no exaggeration. And I speak for Tam, my partner, as well, and probably hundreds, if not thousands, of people all over the world that go, you two have given so many of us the opportunity to be either the caregiver that we want to be or the professional that we want to be, in that, whatever that might be, a trainer, groomer, doesn't really matter. And that was what I was searching for when I came out of working in a very care-centered educational setting. That was just the most joyous 12 years of employment that I've ever had, because it was people-centered. You were looking at the individual person and going, every single day, how do I get the best from you in the life that you've got, no matter what that life looks like? And then going into and coming into a world of canine education that was very rigid, very formal. And I'm very open that I started off working in a balanced way, but hugely conflicted working in that balanced way, going, well, why are we treating animals like this when we're treating people so much better? And not knowing that anything else existed until a vet of ours said, we were having some recall issues, go and see this Adam Daines, who we all know. And that was my first evolution into a more reward-based way. And it was fantastic. And I loved it. And we had some really great years together. And Adam's still a very close friend. But and up until that point, I'd never really been like a fake guy or things happening for a reason. And I'd not been long into setting up on my own as Southwest Dog Skills with Tam. And just one day, Caroline Wilkinson posted she was unwell and couldn't go to the dog rescue conference that was happening in the Guildhall in Bath. And I was free, and I went, and I met some amazing people from Battersea who I'm still really good friends with. And this figure got up and stood on stage and started to speak. And God, here we go. And I cried. I sat there in a room of a bunch of strangers on a table of strangers and just wept, because it was finally that moment of going, there is permission for me to be the educator that I want to be for guardians, for the dogs that I get the joy of working with. And I went, right, where's Sarah? Got to go where Sarah goes. And my training centre is, I mean, it would take me longer to walk than it would take most. It's just ridiculous how close we are. And since then, it's been this amazing journey of education, understanding, enlightenment, support from the whole ACE community. And the dog centre care community is very much like that too, where you feel you find your place. And the biggest thing I feel, and it is that feel, that sets people free with animal-centered education and the dog-centered care movement, is it gives you permission, and sometimes people do feel that they need permission to feel about their animals how they want to feel, without judgment, without ridicule, without being the one on the outside that looks like the crazy person, because actually you're caring deeply about the physical, cognitive health of and emotional health of another being. And why should you not honor that as much as you honor your partner or your children or whatever? So yeah, to share a space with anybody that will embrace ACE as much as so many people have is always a joy. And I just, it's cut me down the middle, and what will you see? Like a stick of rock. You will see ACE and you'll see dog-centered care, because it's just been yeah, everything I've ever wanted in and now I have the joy of doing it as a job. I mean, this is ridiculous, because it's just so brilliant. It's just so amazing. And I don't know. I've lost my words because I need to wipe my eyes and I've got no tissues.
And me, Matt. But you are amazing. You're a gift. And I feel so lucky that our community is just so incredible and so supportive of each other, and every person that comes on any of our courses, the workshops or the online courses, they all add another layer or a little nuance or a little detail, or just help modify or refine something. So it's this incredible evolving community that just keeps expanding and just gives us even more to share with more people who really are looking for ways to support their dog, and start moving the dialogue. Even in the positive community, there are things, oh, who's training who, when people are actually just listening to their dog and letting the dog have a voice and say, I'm actually struggling here, or that isn't rewarding for me. And it's little sayings like that that always just made me kind of tighten a bit, because it should be this beautiful conversation and communication where both the dog and the human are learning from and with each other. And I really want people and the animals to really fall in love with learning and become curious and to feel safe. And Matt, you're a really important part of that. So thank you.
It's the bit that I love the most is when a caregiver that you're working with turns back to you and they go, I thought that, but I didn't think I could say it. Yes. I saw that, but I didn't think I was right. Yeah. And then with that person that you've just unlocked something in them, that like you said, Sarah, that curiosity, that ability, that confidence to go, actually, no, you do really know this dog or this animal that you share your life with. You don't need to be in this box of the learning is the teaching, it's not even learning. The teaching is one dimensional. It's coming from the human, because we are the one with knowledge and power downwards. Actually, the greatest knowledge and power from a person is actually when we're able to receive information back. If we sit there on this pedestal with all this knowledge and power and pretend that we are the all-knowing being, we're missing massive amount of information. We're not able to interact, even, you know, listening to people's and people's stories and people's interactions with their animals is as important as knowing how to support them to walk in partnership, develop a recall, whatever it might be that they've come to you for. And I think, you know, it's like I keep saying, it's just so freeing for so many people. And, you know, we've been on a massive journey with Jonty, and it's been life-changing. We're going through adolescence now with Rojo, and they're expressive, and that's great. They tell us what they like and don't like, and we respond, rather than going, well, that's an issue, let's fix that, I don't like that, that's inconvenient to me in my world. It's not that. It's going, what are you telling me, and why are you telling me this, and how can I help you? I think and I will be quiet in a minute, I promise. I think the biggest thing is helping people be curious again, helping people go back to why. That thing that we used to do and probably drove my dad insane as a 4-year-old, 5-year-old boy, going, why, Dad? Why do we do this? Why do we that? And it gets pulled out of us in so many different areas of our lives. But actually, we need that. We need to go back to that and go, why is this happening? Not what's happening, but why is it happening? And that gives us so many opportunities to observe and learn and explore. But it is tricky. It does hurt. It really.
But curiosity is so important, and that's what I want to inspire and in people to become curious. And I really hope people leave our workshops or our courses with more questions than answers, as you say, Matt. And also, if you think about curious, if we remain curious and we can help our animals be curious about their environment, there is less likelihood of any of the beings becoming reactive, because it's actually really difficult to be curious and reactive at the same time. Curiosity can startle you, cause anxiety. You might not like what you discover, and it may be sort of fear-inducing or, you know, momentarily disruptive. But if you're curious about someone, you're less likely to be reactive about anything they're saying or doing, because you're saying, well, why? Why might they feel this? Why might that be their belief? And that's what we see with the dogs. They become curious in this safe environment through the stations that we set up. And we see them become curious as they extend that range of movement into other areas around the farm. And they're just standing there, air scenting on a relaxed lead, instead of being hyper vigilant and, you know, lunging at another dog, maybe. I mean, it's unbelievable what happens in free work. And I know everyone who's joining us here tonight have got similar experience and stories that they can share as well. So curiosity, be curious. Absolutely. That's the message for this evening's chat, for sure.
And I think this is the kind of knock-on effect of your energy, Sarah, and how you allow people to feel safe to be part of that process and unlock a lot of these things. And, you know, Laura and I have done a few workshops together where we've really focused on supporting others to have that mindset shift and give them permission almost to go there. Because that's what happened when I first met you, Sarah. First time I met you was at the Devon and Cornwall Boxer Rescue. You came down to Torquay, actually, and that's the first time I met you. And then we kept bumping into each other at various things. And like with Matt, when I first heard you, I was thinking, wow, that's a window into that individual dog's experience here. It's not just about what we can get them to do, you know. And I think that's the gift that gets people to start thinking about things and unlocking, as you say, unlocking that chance to be curious. Sarah, can we come to you first? If that's all right.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you for joining us, Sarah. And there's a couple of things I just wanted to kind of ask you about. So could you share a little bit about your work supporting the Sighthounds? And you mentioned in your communication initially about how life-changing, kind of ACE has been there, and also a little bit about your own experience and how you connect and perceive the world as well, because I think both of these things are really interesting for us.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. So ACE and free work came into my life about 4 years ago, when I had rescued a very noise sensitive lurcher girl called Sandy. And I tried counter conditioning and desensitization, didn't really know what I was doing and ended up flooding her instead, to the point that we were both nervous wrecks, really, when it came to going out on walks. But then I came across Janet Finley's book, Your End of the Lead, and that just kind of changed my whole approach, really, to how I lived with Sandy. We went straight onto a stress holiday, and we're still on it, actually, 4 years later. So to start with, free work was kind of really an enhanced enrichment, and something that I could use to replace our daily walk. But the more I did it, the more interested and curious I became. And I was also very interested in sort of anatomy and physiology and how dogs move, and how their bodies work. And so the observation side of free work was really interesting to me as well. Then I guess, well, we can probably fast forward a couple of years until my most recent rescue came into my life, and both Sarah and Matt have met him. And that's a Saluki called Brennan. He was an ex-coursing dog, who, when he came to me, was struggling to eat with any kind of regularity or consistency. He was very wary of people, especially of the movement of people. It was so easy to startle him. And he was also quite reactive when he was out and about. He did a lot of barking when he was on his lead, which I think is probably frustration based. But I think really with free work then, that it's interesting you're talking about curiosity and permission, because that gave me the permission to, after I'd had a couple of weeks of stressing about how my new rescue wasn't eating, it gave me the permission to stand back and say, okay, let's just observe. Let's see what Brennan's got to say about this. And just kind of put it in his hands somewhat, to tell me what he needed. Turned out he had a very particular set of preferences, which I prefer over saying he was fussy or picky. Gradually, by observing all of those things, I was able to get a much sort of more consistent eating pattern for him. And now, he enjoys food. The minute that he sees me getting the free work items out, he's there, he's ready to engage. And he's just, a lot of those particular preferences have gone away as well. He doesn't seem to need those in order to feel safe around food. It's rare that he'll refuse anything I put out for him now. So yeah, in that respect, the free work completely changed things for him. It also helped me to identify some areas of potential pain and discomfort. And then it helped him to access treatment, because, as I said, he was very wary of people he didn't know. And, particularly around movement, and any kind of cooperative care was really difficult for him as well. I mean, it still is, I can touch him now, I can stroke him, he can have a massage, but you come anywhere, you get, the eardrop bottle out or the nail clippers, and he's, no, we're not having any of that. So that's still something for us to work on. But yeah, it really helped to access massage treatment for sure. I found a therapist who was able to work at his pace. We took free work with us. And he actually settled into the treatment a lot quicker than I expected him to. So yeah, he had massage treatment for quite a while, and now that I've moved to North Wales, he's just seeing a new therapist for the first time tomorrow. So free work's definitely coming out then.
You know, I think you've been doing amazing things, Sarah, and I know that free work and ACE and just kind of having this new insight into dogs has changed you as a person as well, and your own outlook at the world, and even leading to a potential career change. I noticed. But that's really interesting what you're saying about even about him learning to be. It's quite a powerful thing you said in passing, which is him learning to feel safe around food. Really interesting and important.
Yeah,
Sarah,
yeah.
Sarah Fisher, come on in and share some thoughts about Sarah's case.
Well, Sarah, I've had the privilege of observing Sarah and Brennan at the farm on several workshops. And because Brennan is a sensitive dog who really needs to kind of feel safe in lots of ways, especially around food, watching the transition from the first video that Sarah posted in part of the in the online part for one of the courses, then arranging for Brennan to come and visit the farm before anybody else was there, just so he could have an experience of that space, and seeing his high stepping gait, quite typical of a sighthound that's quite tense, to what happened on that first workshop where Sarah and I said, look, come, you know, and if after his first experience it's overwhelming to stay there and he needs to go home, we can arrange for that and we can have a breakout room ready. He stayed for the full 2 days and his confidence just grew. And to see him now outside engaging in free work in the paddocks, even in the rain, sighthound engaging in free work in the rain, while all the people watching were like, if we could just go back in now, we sure would appreciate that. It's unbelievable. And that is down to this amazing relationship that Brennan has with Sarah, where she's learned from him instead of trying to direct experiences that she believed would be beneficial for him. And there is something powerful about the free workstations. When we get them, particularly at the right height, they're even more beneficial. So it's kind of thinking education meets enrichment with a huge dose of empowerment, with kind of 3 E's in there. And it really does help engage the seeking system, and it does give dogs permission to become curious. And it's very rewarding seeing fearful dogs engaging in free work and eating for the first time in even an unfamiliar environment. And that was Matt and Tam's experience with Jonty when he first came to the farm. And all we could have for Jonty was 3 stools or steps set up. We couldn't have anything soft. But that was the first time Jonty had eaten away from a familiar place, and the first of many occasions where Matt and I just watched and sobbed. And there's something truly extraordinary. We do that with the shelter dogs as well. So don't offer food from the hand, because they've got to pick up our scent. There's some pressure that we're putting on them when we're trying to help them so much, and that's a really key part of the freedom of free work. It really does enable the dog to be the pilot of their own learning and movement experiences, and we're there as air traffic controllers just to guide them back to a safe flight path should the need arise. And again, the dog might not feel physically or emotionally safe enough to pick up food that might have been scattered on the floor, but if you can put it on something that's visually interesting, it really does trigger the seeking system and spark that curiosity. And as I've said, if you're curious, you are less likely to be reactive, and it really just seems to open the doors. And Sarah and Brennan, just wow, and thank you for being such a huge and valuable part. It's been an absolute privilege to watch your ACE adventures together, and the confidence that Brennan has now thanks to you, and all the amazing support you do at home for him as well. It's just unbelievable. People would not believe where Brennan started when he was first with Sarah, if they actually saw him at Tilly Farm.
Thank you. I must say, whenever I come to Tilly Farm with Brennan, I always feel like we've added an extra thread to our connection. Yeah.
Well, there's people mentioning in the chat about their visits to Tilly Farm, Sarah. I think we can all say there is something about that space that you've created there, and the wonderful people that support you there, like Mags and John and others,
And Shelley.
And there is a magic to the place. I think we can all agree on that. And I think the animals pick up on it too, for sure.
We're lucky. We inherited the magic, and I hope we just add to it and don't disrupt it in any way. It has an amazing feel, that place.
And I spent lots of time in Matt's barn with Brennan as well. So, you know, and again, that's been really beneficial for Brennan too, to have that on a regular basis. And you know, Matt is a man often in black, which is the type of people that Brennan finds most difficult, actually. So it's been really good for him to have that experience with Matt, and for Matt to be able to move around the barn whilst Brennan's free working, and for him not to be startled by his presence.
Yeah, it's really good. Really, really good.
That's an important thing, I think, Matt, actually. You know, you being a blokey bloke, but
hardly
having an energy, well, you know, on first look, should we say? But I think having that energy, which shows a different side to masculinity, I think it's really important that these animals pick up on that. So I think you were sharing there, Sarah. I think it's important to think about that. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for sharing with us. Debbie, should we dive straight into the C word? Because you love free work, you love it, you use it every day, but free work isn't just for dogs, of course, and you work with cats, and you do free work with cats. Tell us about
I do.
Work.
So I'm a veterinary nurse and a certificated clinical animal behaviourist, and I see dogs and cats. And I am finding more and more and more what cats need is a voice and freedom and the chance to express themselves, and they benefit from it massively. So I've been working with a little cat today who is, bless her heart, she has been born with terrible hips. She almost certainly is going to have femoral head and neck arthroplasty on both sides, and that's in the post. But she, bless her, has never, for the year that these guys have had her, urinated or defecated in a litter tray of any description. She's an indoor cat because she can't go out because of her hips, and just trying to support these wonderful caregivers who are giving their home up to this gorgeous cat. I don't know many people who would put up with that for a year. And they love this cat dearly, and they just want to give her a wonderful life, and being able to give them something back that they don't have to supervise and they don't have to be on it every second of every minute, was such a wonderful gift today. So she's quite bitey, unsurprisingly, because she's got a huge amount of pain in her body, and she's part Bengal, I think. She's got these beautiful piercing green eyes and Bengal markings, and then a tortoiseshell body. But she is stimulated so much by her world and her life, and being able to just slow her down enough to say, it's okay, you can breathe, was a really beautiful gift. So I had a really amazing session with them today. There's going to be a huge amount to do with this pussycat, because she's got a long way to go. She's got a lot of surgery to go through, but they've now got that in their toolkit for those moments when they can't do anything with her because she's biting and she's, you know, stressed beyond stress because she's got the Bengal mind and she's wanting to go and chase birds and she can't because her body won't let her. She's now got this wonderful outlet. So yeah, it was a wonderful, wonderful session. Really, really nice session.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Using free work for dogs and cats, what does the cat, is there a difference to how the cat goes about engaging with the free work, the things that you observe from that compared to the dogs?
It does obviously depend on the cat, but most cats, I find, don't work as long as dogs. They don't tend to have, but then I think when you're training with cats as well, they tend to have a shorter attention span, or they need short bursts. And it may be that if I sort of studied it in any great detail, they would need shorter sessions, but more times in the day. So I don't think they've got as long an attention span. but certainly they use, I mean, with them, I use licky mats, I use snuffle mats, I use crunchy treats, soft treats, etc., etc. And they just process and come down in a very similar way. So it's just, yeah, it's again, it's a thing of beauty. I've got a friend, and I haven't seen it for myself, so I don't know if it's true or if they're taking the mickey out of me, but I've got a friend who says she does free work with her African giant land snails. Again, I don't know how, but we do say it's species, every species can do it. So yeah.
Well, here's something you might not have known, but my husband, when he was younger, he had land snails,
Oh, okay, amazing.
a community of them, and he reckons, he tells me that he got to know them individually. He named them, he knew them. They were quite complex in their connections with each other. So there you go. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sarah, do you want to come in on the cats?
Debbie, that's just, yeah, it's amazing. I don't have any tissues here. This was bad planning, because it is, yeah, just such a gift for all animals, and cats and free work really are just it's so beneficial for the cat, but cats and free work combination really helps caregivers identify physical issues and anxieties. And hip dysplasia in cats is so underdiagnosed. It's underdiagnosed in dogs for sure, but it's so underdiagnosed in cats because people don't consider that cats can have hip dysplasia as well. And I was helping I think that cat was a part Bengal as well. And when I first went into the person's home, the thing that really struck me was how many ornaments they had on the side of their kitchen counter and on their table. And I said, you have a Bengal and you have ornaments? That's a red flag straight away that your cat can't climb. And the cat was biting feet and all of the things. And they had slippery flooring because of one of their health challenges, one of their human family members. And they had a mat by the back door. And I said, if we could, even create better surfaces in part for your cat, that would help. And obviously vet referral and specialist. And they said, well, that is interesting. Talk about the surfaces, because what we've noticed that when we give her toys or things to chew that she can eat, she always takes it to this mat by the back door because she was seeking stability. And she did go for to see an orthopedics specialist and had terrible hip dysplasia, and I think luxating patella as well. So the cat was really painful, and it is a gift that we can help meet the needs of these animals that can't go and have their needs, their intrinsic needs met through exploring the outside world. And we've had just amazing contributions in the online courses. We've had horses, we've had cats and dogs going through some of the online content with their caregivers, and people being able to identify change in the gait in the cat, looking at how much shorter the stride is on the right hind compared to the left hind, recognizing how the cat are organizing their bodies at the different stations, and cats sharing the same space as well. We have an amazing practitioner called Jeanne, and she was doing free work with her two cats, and she said they would always tolerate each other, but they'd never eaten in the same space. And we did this, she set up this beautiful combination station, because we were doing combination stations as part of the module. So very enriched station layout in a single space, which is great for small spaces. And these cats were just exploring for ages together. And then one of them actually fell asleep in a pile of mini snuffle mats and slept for hours. It was amazing. It's amazing. It's absolutely mind-blowing and so therapeutic. We should have a free work channel so that people can log in and just watch animals exploring in this really calm, peaceful, mindful way. Because I tell you what, for me, it helps me reset. It doesn't feel like work, ever. I just feel privileged to be a part of these amazing, peaceful experiences. Thank you, Debbie. Mind-blowing.
Debbie, a couple of things. First of all, Shelley says that Shelley also did free work with giant land snails, and it was
amazing. It's a thing.
It's a thing now. Well, that's it. We're good. And also, somebody else asks, as part of your free work, do you use kind of cat-related things like scratching posts as part of that setup?
I don't use scratching posts. I just use, I share kits. So I share my kit is for dogs and cats. Obviously, everything's washed, everything's disinfected. But I know that's a good point, actually. Should I put a scratching post in?
Why not?
Because it's a very rewarding thing for cats to scratch, isn't it? That's a blooming good idea. Thank you very much.
And I guess if the cat thought, "Oh, I was going to go and scratch over here," it's a bit like a dog just wandering off for a bit and having a bit of a stretch, a bit of a wander, and then thinking, "Now I'll come back and carry on." Yes, yeah, yeah. There you go. Great. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Zan. Okay. Kim. Now, a wonderful thing happened earlier on the year. This is related to this, I think, Kim, because Sarah, you were talking at the PPG, I think, PPG conference in person, as was Leslie McDevitt. And you came up with this kind of ingenious idea of combining control unleashed kind of work and free work. And a lot of people at that conference said it really was the highlight, just to see you both kind of collaborating in that way. And of course, Kim, that's you're a certified control unleashed instructor, aren't you?
I am, yes. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that, and also about how you integrate free work in ACE, and just how that kind of evolution has come with you regarding the kind of resilience side of things as well. Because I know you follow a lot of the Resilience Rainbow work with Kathy and Bobby.
Yeah. I mean, I've been a certified control unleash instructor for almost 4 years now. And once I started learning about ACE and free work, I started to really pick up on the importance of how our dogs are holding their bodies and how they're moving their bodies. It's kind of like when you first start learning about calming signals and you see like the obvious ones everywhere, and then you start seeing the more like intricate changes everywhere. Like I just started seeing more and more. And with Control Unleashed, we use a lot of patterns that are meant to help a dog feel more comfortable and more predictable in their world, right? So an example would be the up-down game. That's one that a lot of people know. So you would put a treat down on the ground, the dog eats the treat, they look up at us, so they orient to us, give us eye contact, whatever it might be, we would mark, put another treat down. And we just keep doing that over and over again. So we create this repetitive pattern that's voluntary. The dog gives eye contact in order for it to continue. And then we start bringing that out into the real world to create predictability. And I started watching these dogs playing the up-down game. I'm like, well, the back's kind of arched, or they're moving this foot out, or whatever it might be, it looks a little uncomfortable. So this is just, I mean, we talk about being curious. That's me in a nutshell. So I set up like a video camera in my training room when I had extra time, and I would videotape my dogs at different heights using snuffle mats, lick mats, angles, me being a certain distance from them. I'd go inch by inch, and then I'd watch the video and I'd see what was most ideal for the dogs. And then I just became, just so addicted to this, creating the perfect picture for this dog so that the pattern is not only predictable for them, but it's also comfortable for them. And then you can take it, you can take it into the real world depending on how much you want to. I mean, if I go somewhere with my dogs, I'm carrying my raised snuffle mat. Like I've got it with me everywhere, set it up, and I'll start doing, whatever pattern it is. But yeah, so I just started to incorporate it into CU. I played around with my in-person students, and then I did end up talking about it a bit at the most recent CU conference, the Resilience Rainbow Conference. And I think the plan is for me to talk about it even more next time. So, but yeah, I absolutely love it. It's just, I love incorporating it into the other things that I do.
That's great, isn't it, Sarah? I think you're working towards your ACE certifications as well, aren't you? So this is a great coming together. And what I love about hearing that is we can easily, I had Leslie and I had a private chat recently. We're just having a good old yap together, but you can fall into task with some of this stuff, especially even with the pattern things. I think, rather than become voluntary to say, it's like, I need you to do something now. I think this is a beautiful example of how you've looked at something like that and giving it another opportunity for that, another window for that dog to give you a sense of their own kind of care and support needs, their own lived experience. And of course, that's where free work comes in as well. Sarah.
I just love how adaptable free work is, because it just can add so many more dimensions to whatever it is that might be your passion. And I just love connecting with Kim and watching the videos that Kim takes and then shares in the groups too. It's just super fun to be able to say, but try delivering the treat from the left hand this time, because we've got a repetitive pattern one way, and that may be because the treat delivery is coming from the right hand all the time, or whatever. Or, you know, watching Kim saying, look at this posture is much better because I've raised the snuffle mat here. It's just such fun to be able to share those experiences with people that are coming from a different background, but with the same passion, the same curiosity. And I remember someone ages ago talking about this brilliant tutor that we'd had teaching at the farm, and this person described this tutor like sand in a glass jar that was linking all these pebbles who were all the other tutors together. And I thought that was just such a great way of describing this truly gifted tutor, who's a wonderful friend and colleague of mine. And I actually think that's what free work is. It could be sand that links together all these other areas of a dog's life or caregiver's life. And it's just so adaptable. It's brilliant for physiotherapy and the grooming salon, for enhancing other learning experiences. And it was such fun combining free work with some of Leslie's teaching at the PBG, and really giving people that insight into why observations are important, what can we learn from watching the dog, how can we modify the speed or duration of any other learning experience. And I've learned through Henry, my current companion. Cookie Dough kind of started this all off, as did the Dogs of Battersea back in the early 2000s. And Henry arrived in 2017, and it was him that brought all the other learning elements where we were teaching skills within the framework of free work, because we were originally looking at maybe rehoming him because his caregivers were out of their depth, and I totally understand why. So we wanted to teach him some really valuable life skills that would increase the chance of him finding a home and staying in that home. And he offered that within the free work that I had set out for him. So I'd learned to give dogs a really enriched sensory experience at the farm, thanks to Cookie Dough. And the speed with which dogs learn, how much it gives us so many more insights into their learning styles, their preferences, and also duration, because most dogs will explore free work for 17 minutes. And that was one of these amazing wow moments. I always had, for a while, recognized that people generally would explore and practice things for around 20 minutes with their companions. But when we actually just started watching dogs explore free work on their own, it was more around the 17-minute mark, not so much the 20-minute mark. And that made me sort of really look at that capacity for learning, and realizing TED Talks at 18 minutes. And there are studies that have shown people doing 17 minutes of mindfulness actually change what's going on in some regions of the brain. And again, I think it has enhanced any other learning that we can do by breaking those learning experiences down and giving the dog the freedom to come and learn with us in the invited engagements, whatever those are, and then they can opt out and go back and explore. And I really think that exploration is a really important part of that processing. And that's made me sort of rethink, how often we rush dogs, how even if we say just do 5 repetitions, watching dogs in free work, 5 is too many, because most dogs will come and join us once, go back and explore free work, connect with us again for two or 3 repetitions, go back and explore free work again. And then maybe that's it in that session. But in the next free work session, again, it's only 17 minutes. 17 minutes to have these profound life-changing experiences blows my mind every day. Then they're like, right, now I've got it. Now I understand. Now it's integrated into my, every fiber of my being. And then they may stay engaged for a little longer. But in that initial stage, it's very rarely more than 3 repetitions that we see. So if people are teaching 5 repetitions, try just 3. It may blow your brain out. And I love what Kim brings to ACE. And I love sharing those chats. I love the conversations that we have, the questions Kim asks. You're a joy, Kim. And it's because you're so curious. And I thank you for bringing all these gorgeous layers to our courses.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And along the lines of what you're talking about, I have been playing around with, so I have a 10-month-old collie now, Sunday, and she's very pressure sensitive. She ended up living with me because she's a sensitive gal. Lovely little dog, but every time I do a training session, I have at least one station set up for her, and she can opt out at any time. And it has been remarkable. And it actually, I was seeing this as like, she doesn't have the duration, she doesn't like the pressure, she likes to take a lot of breaks. Just yesterday, I tried this with Jeanne, my 5-year-old, who I have always called a workaholic. And I found it so interesting that she actually opted out a few times. And I'm like, I would not have known that had I not set up that station for her. And it was just, and it was so enlightening for me to see that I can give her that option. And then she's so fresh when she comes back. And it's just so amazing. I just enjoy it so much.
Oh, Kim, don't. See, Kim and I get so animated in our conversations because what you've just shared about Jeanne and Sunday is why I question some of the belief systems around the term displacement behavior. Because how do we know? How do we know the dog feels displaced? We don't. There are powerful things happening in free work, and that I can relate to what my nervous system says I need to do to process stuff that's going on in my life, especially if I've got a busy schedule and more things are coming into the mix. And I'm like, that moment where your brain is just like whirring. You go to a behavior that requires no thinking. It's a natural behavior. For some dogs, that might be defaulting to a very breed specific movement pattern, for example. But I think what you're seeing is what somebody could say was displacement because the dog's all displaced, finding it difficult. And I don't think it is. I think the dog's just going, and let me just do that, just to process and do this natural behavior like foraging in the snuffle mat or licking, just so I can actually fully integrate all those beautiful experiences I've just had with my caregiver or in this novel environment. And we see it over and over and over again, that actually accelerates learning, and it just strengthens this amazing conversation between these incredible animals and us, because we should be a better student of the dog than the teacher of the dog. They're the ones that should be teaching us. They have so much to share, and we've missed so much over the years. It's quite frightening, really.
Yeah.
And we saw that in the classes that we run as a transformation in lack of focus, lack of attention, lack of duration in when you're maybe doing a more task focused activity, and actually allowing the dog to go, I just need a minute and then I'll come back and then I'll be even more awesome than I was before. And when we made the big transition from a very task-based approach to teaching, and I differentiate between teaching and learning, and I think we all should. When we then brought free work into every element of our education for our caregivers and their dogs, when we started to bring it into puppy classes, the puppy didn't need a toilet break to go outside, because it had the opportunity to go and, in inverted commas, disengage. Was it disengaging? Possibly. Had it had enough of us trying to do stuff with it? Quite likely. But it allowed then the conversation with the caregivers to go, this is okay. The fact that the dog just needs to go and have a minute is absolutely fine. We don't need to be working more on focus and seeing it as a judgment on behavior when the dog doesn't focus on you. It's going, this is what the dog's needs are. Just give it a minute, it'll come back to you, and then it'll be just as amazing as it was before. And I think, Kim, what you're saying is what more people need to know and understand, that even when we do want to do tasks, there is still an allowance for the dog to be expressive in that.
Yes.
And I did an amazing workshop for a group of gun dog trainers, and it was all about how ACE free work actually enhances performance. That was the big shift, is giving the dog the opportunity. They'd done a retrieve, right? What is that built up inside the dog? What's the pressure cooker that's going on inside the dog? The free workstation, even if it was just one free workstation next to the peg, that dog's ability to explore, releasing that pressure cooker to be able to go and do that task again that they're going to be asked to do. And all of them, when they went back to do it, went back and said, actually, my dog's so much better at performing the task now, because they're not bubbling away inside, and then efficiency and duration and all these things that they're potentially looking for then diminishes, and the dog loses focus or doesn't want to take part in it. Actually, they wanted to do the activity more because free work gave them the opportunity to have that release from that adrenaline, dopamine, whatever it is was going on for that dog, and actually do things better. So, Kim, what you're saying, and I haven't had the pleasure, Kim, of spending any time with you, but it just sounds like you are changing the game in terms of looking at things differently when we are still doing that task-based activity, which is just great. Incredible.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's great. And I along the lines of the puppy class, because I'm playing around with that as well. And I also think it allows the puppies to take in the environment in a more comfortable way. So rather than being, focused on the handler, as some of the puppies become, extremely focused on them because of the food or whatever, or I think they're trying to just block everything else out, or they're having a hard time focusing on the handler. This just allows them to take in the entire environment in just the comfort of, doing their free work. So there's so much that they can gain from it. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're going to be here till midnight. I'll try not to keep chipping in. But I think what you're saying is so key there, Kim, because I've noticed dogs, when they're overloaded, and it's one of the finished clues that we look for in free work, they actually start to fixate on food. So they start to counter surf and look for the treats on the kitchen counter in our free work space at the farm, or they'll suddenly start staring at the treat pouch on their caregiver's belt or the pocket where the treats have been. And people say, oh, my dog wants to work. So they don't. They're defaulting to this non-thinking behavior for a highly reinforced or commonly practiced behavior like counter surfing, because they actually now need a break. And it can be so misinterpreted. And when Matt shared that with me, that the puppies no longer needed to go out for a loo break, I wondered as well, was it that the caregivers weren't under pressure to try and maintain contact and entertain and manage and contain this puppy whose sensory systems, absorbing information everywhere in that space? And is it sometimes the caregiver that needs to leave and take their puppy out for the break? Because like with dogs, our nervous system does really well in 17-minute time budgets. So I love it. I love what you're doing, Kim. Love what you have done, Matt, as well, to change the setup for those learning experiences for the puppies and the adolescent dogs. I'll stop.